Hey, lock the players out. Lock them out. Put some real pressure on them. Send them an email. Hey, if our proposal doesn't get finished by this date, from every day there on after, the offer will get considerably worse.
In the high-stakes environment of professional sports labor negotiations, there is a delicate balance between advocating for fair terms and maintaining realistic expectations. When negotiations become a prolonged standoff, success often depends less on moral arguments and more on practical financial and structural realities. Over the past period, discussions between the Players Association and the league's ownership in the Women's National Basketball Association have reached an impasse. The union initially sought a substantial share of league revenue, arguing that player compensation should reflect the sport's growing commercial profile and public interest. The proposal represented a significant shift from previous agreements and was intended as an opening position in negotiations. As deadlines approach, both sides face pressure to reach a compromise. The union's revised proposal was framed as a concession intended to bridge the gap with ownership's position. However, the exact terms of the counteroffer remain a point of disagreement. League ownership has indicated that it views the requested revenue share as financially unsustainable under current operating conditions. Critics of the union's strategy argue that the movement in the proposal did not sufficiently narrow the difference between the two sides. Supporters contend that the adjustment demonstrated a willingness to negotiate in good faith. In complex labor disputes, perception often matters as much as the numerical details of an offer. At the same time, the league's financial structure and revenue model remain central to the discussion. Professional sports leagues operate within constraints related to broadcast contracts, attendance revenue, and long-term investment in growth. The challenge is to design an agreement that balances player compensation with financial sustainability. High-profile athletes, such as Caitlin Clark of the Indiana Fever, have contributed to increased visibility and commercial interest in the league. However, individual marketability and endorsement income exist separately from league salary structures, which are determined by collective bargaining agreements. The coming weeks will determine whether the two sides can reach a mutually acceptable framework or whether further disruption becomes unavoidable. Successful negotiations typically require compromise and a clear understanding of economic realities on both sides.
Send them an email. Hey, if our proposal doesn't get finished by this date, from every day there on after, the offer will get considerably worse.
The union proposal included adjustments to its revenue and salary cap demands, moving from 27.5% gross revenue to 26% and from a $9.5 million salary cap to $9.45 million. In the context of large-scale financial negotiations, such small numerical shifts do not necessarily constitute meaningful compromise. From the perspective of ownership, the change may appear minor relative to the broader financial gap between the parties. Negotiations in complex industries often require concessions that materially bridge differences rather than symbolic adjustments. A reduction of a fraction of a percentage point in revenue share or a slight modification of salary limits does not automatically resolve underlying disagreements about financial structure. At the same time, both sides are responding to genuine economic realities. The Players Association argues that rising interest in the league and increased attendance, particularly in markets driven by high-profile teams such as the Indiana Fever and star athletes like Caitlin Clark, as well as teams featuring marquee players such as the New York Liberty and athletes like Sabrina Ionescu, should translate into greater compensation. Ownership emphasizes operational costs, market variability, and infrastructure constraints. The league consists of franchises in markets with vastly different revenue profiles and arena capacities. Some venues regularly sell out and generate significant local revenue, while others operate in smaller markets with limited seating and broadcast reach. A uniform salary cap applied across all franchises must account for these differences. For teams in smaller markets with lower revenue streams, a $9 million payroll may present financial challenges under current conditions. This reality underscores the core tension in professional sports labor negotiations, balancing competitive player compensation with sustainable business models across diverse markets. Successful agreements typically require compromises that reflect both the economic potential of the league and the practical limitations faced by individual franchises.
Offer 26% gross revenue share over the life of the deal and $9.45 million salary cap in 2026. The previous WNBA offer 15% gross revenue share over the life of the deal.
Professional sports economics are constrained by physical and financial realities. For example, venues such as the Washington Mystics and the Atlanta Dream operate in arenas with limited seating capacity. If an arena holds 3,500 seats and every game sells out at an average ticket price of $50, the total annual gross ticket revenue from 22 home games would be under $4 million. This arithmetic illustrates the challenge of aligning payroll obligations with revenue generation in smaller markets. A salary structure requiring a $9.5 million player payroll, combined with additional costs such as travel, insurance, and operational expenses, must be supported by sufficient revenue streams. In markets where ticket sales and broadcast income are limited by arena size and commercial reach, the financial equation becomes more complex. At the same time, the Players Association argues that the league's economic landscape has changed significantly. The rise in television viewership and the signing of major media rights agreements, along with increased public interest in teams featuring high-profile talent such as the Indiana Fever and star athletes like Caitlin Clark, as well as the commercial growth surrounding teams such as the New York Liberty and players like Sabrina Ionescu, have generated new revenue opportunities. Ownership groups respond that compensation structures must reflect both the league's growth and the financial constraints of individual franchises. In professional sports, revenue sharing and salary caps are designed to balance competitive fairness with sustainability across markets of varying size and earning potential. A separate but important dimension of the dispute involves trust and transparency in financial reporting. Players and unions often advocate for revenue-based compensation models to ensure that growth in league income translates into player earnings. Owners emphasize that operational expenses, long-term investments, and depreciation of assets must also be considered when evaluating profitability. The result is a complex negotiation in which both sides view their positions as justified. The challenge is to design an agreement that reflects economic realities while enabling continued growth and competitive stability.